There comes a time in a woman's life when she stops waiting. She stops waiting for someone to call her, to choose her, to save her, to understand her. She stops chasing people who never valued her, and she stops apologizing for the space she takes up in this world. In that moment, something shifts. Her silence becomes her strength. Her solitude becomes her power. And what others call being alone, she calls her finally being free. Some will pity her, whispering, she must be lonely, but she will smile because they have no idea. They cannot see the mornings where she wakes without stress, the nights where she sleeps in absolute peace, the days where her choices belong to her and her alone. She's not lonely, she's untouchable. Today, I want to open your eyes to a truth the world rarely speaks about. There are women who are happiest when they are living alone, not because they couldn't find love, not because they gave up, but because they chose themselves. They discovered that the greatest love story of their life was the one they built with their own soul. And in this journey, there are 5 powerful types of women, 5 ways a woman can rise, thrive, and reign in her own space. 5 women who prove that solitude is not emptiness. It is a luxury, a freedom, and in many ways, the highest form of self-respect. If you listen closely, you may find yourself among them. And if you do, you might never look at living alone the same way again. She is a woman who refuses to fade quietly into the background simply because the calendar says she is past a certain age. While others see 60 as a season of slowing down, she sees it as the perfect time to speed up, not in body, but in spirit. You will find her with a spark in her eyes, a quiet fire in her heart, and a list of dreams that never made it into her earlier years. She calls them her delayed gifts, and now she is finally unwrapping them one by one. In her younger days, her time was often not her own. Family, career responsibilities, and expectations pulled her in 1,000 directions. But now, the house is quiet. The phone no longer rings with demands every hour. The weight of proving herself to others has lifted, and into that open space, she pours something the world never saw coming, her self-opening. She understands something many never will. Solitude is not an absence of love, but an abundance of opportunity. She wakes in the morning and asks herself not, what do they need from me? But what do I need for me? That single shift transforms her life. One day, it's a pottery class. Another day, it's a sunrise hike she takes alone, breathing in the kind of silence that feels like medicine. She's exploring again, not just the world, but her own mind. She reads books that challenge her thinking, takes online courses to learn new skills, and fills journals with plans that make her heart beat faster. Age has not dimmed her. If anything, it has sharpened her focus. The people around her sometimes watch with confusion. They wonder why she bothers to start new things at her age. But she knows the secret. Youth was never about the number of years in your life. It was always about the amount of life in your years. She's not chasing the past. She's upgrading her present. And in doing so, she's proving that the so-called later years can be the most exciting chapter of all. Her reinvention is not about rebellion. It's about liberation. She is free from the weight of comparison. She no longer looks at other women and asks, am I keeping up? Because there is nothing to keep up with. Her pace is her own, her style is her own, and her happiness is hers to design. The world told her the story of aging would be about loss. She has decided her story will be about gaining new skills, new perspectives, and new layers to herself. She is not in a rush. There is no urgency born from fear. Instead, she moves with intention, savoring the process of becoming. She knows that small, consistent steps taken for herself will ripple into every part of her life. Even something as simple as redecorating her home becomes a declaration. Each plant, each painting, each chosen color is a reflection of who she is now, not who she used to be. Her home, like her life, is a mirror of her renewed spirit. And here is where her quiet power shines the most. She has made peace with the woman she was, and she is deeply in love with the woman she is becoming. She no longer spends energy regretting what she didn't do. She is too busy doing it now. She is not looking for someone to complete her. She understands that completion is an inside job. And because she is whole, every new experience she welcomes is not to fill a gap, but to expand the life she already treasures. When she travels alone, she feels no awkwardness, only freedom. She sits at a cafe in a city she has never been to, sipping coffee and people watching with a smile. When she signs up for a dance class, she laughs at her own mistakes without shame. Every misstep becomes part of the music. She collects these moments like jewels, and each one glitters brighter than the last. In her solitude, she has learned to listen, really listen to herself. She notices what brings her joy, what drains her energy, and what she wants to welcome more of into her life. Without the noise of constant company, she has space to hear her own heart's rhythm, and the more she listens, the more her life aligns with who she truly is. This alignment, this deep self-connection, is what makes her radiate from the inside out. The glow people see on her face isn't makeup. It's the reflection of a soul finally free to breathe. She has learned that beauty is not something that fades with age. It shifts, it deepens, it becomes richer. And because she no longer measures herself against the impossible standards of others, she shines in a way she never did before. This is the woman who shows us that life after 60 is not a slow descent, it can be a breathtaking ascent. She has proven that it is never too late to dream, never too late to grow, never too late to surprise yourself. Her happiness doesn't come from waiting for someone to walk through her door. It comes from opening the door herself and stepping into the wide, limitless world that still belongs to her. She is their glow-up grandma, not because she has changed who she is, but because she has finally stepped fully into it, and in doing so, she teaches the rest of us the most valuable truth of all. You do not stop living when you live alone. You start living on your own terms. She is the woman who moves through life with an ease that cannot be faked. There is no rush in her step, no hidden anxiety in her eyes, no constant weight pressing against her chest. This is what freedom feels like. Not the kind of freedom you talk about, but the kind you live, breathe, and protect with your whole being. She answers to no one. Not out of rebellion, but out of a deep understanding that her life is hers alone to design. When she wakes in the morning, she doesn't adjust her mood to match someone else's. She doesn't tiptoe around another person's silence or adjust her plans to fit another's comfort. She opens her eyes and decides how her day will begin. Sometimes that means she stays in bed an extra hour, letting the sunlight slowly spill across her face. Other days, it means she's up before dawn, taking a long walk in the cool stillness of the morning. There is no guilt in her choices because she has no one demanding that she justify them. No years, she gave her time away without thinking. She cooked meals she didn't want to eat, agreed to plans she didn't have the energy for, and smiled through conversations that drained her. But now, she has reclaimed her hours, and she spends them like precious currency. If she invests in a moment, it is because it brings her joy, peace, or meaning, not because it is expected of her. This shift changes everything. She realizes that the greatest luxury is not wealth, but the power to choose without compromise. She has learned to move without seeking permission. If she wants to book a trip, she books it. If she wants to spend a quiet evening at home, she does so without worrying about disappointing anyone. This is not selfishness, it is self-respect. She no longer dilutes her life to keep others comfortable. And the more she honors her own needs, the more she notices how light and unburdened she feels. Her days are not dictated by obligation, but by rhythm. She eats when she is hungry, not when a clock tells her it's mealtime. She dresses for herself, not to impress anyone. She decorates her space in colors and textures that make her soul exhale, even if no one else will ever see them. She has become the architect of her own atmosphere, and every choice she makes reinforces the truth that she is fully in control of her world, in control of her world. There are people who cannot understand this kind of independence. They assume that being alone must feel empty, that there must be a longing for someone to share every moment with. But she knows that freedom often looks like solitude from the outside. It is not a lack, it is the removal of chains. She no longer fears coming home to an empty house because she has filled it with her own presence. Her laughter still echoes through the rooms. Her energy still breathes life into the walls. She is not bound by the subtle compromises that come with living for someone else. She doesn't need to explain why she stays up late reading a novel or why she decides to have dinner at midnight. Her choices belong to her, and that alone fills her with a satisfaction few ever taste. She is no longer editing herself to fit into another person's expectations, and that absence of restraint allows her to be fully unapologetically herself. Her freedom shows in small ways. The way she lingers over her coffee without glancing at the clock. The way she leaves her favorite song playing on repeat for hours because no one will complain. The way she walks barefoot across her living room, simply because she likes the feel of the cool flow under her skin. These are not grand gestures, but they are declarations, proof that she is living her life for herself, moment by moment. She has discovered that autonomy is addictive. Once you've tasted the sweetness of making decisions without compromise, it's hard to imagine giving that away again. And so she guards her freedom fiercely. She understands that protecting her peace means saying no to people who drain her, no to situations that diminish her, no to anything that would pull her back into the cage she has worked so hard to escape. This is not a woman who hides from connection. She loves deeply, but she loves on her own terms. She invites people into her life as guests, not owners. And because she has built her life around freedom, every relationship she allows now is one of choice, not necessity. There is a lightness in this kind of love. It is free from control, free from expectation, free from fear. In her, we see the truth that freedom is not found in escape but in ownership. Ownership of one's choices, one's time, one's energy, one's very life. She is not waiting for someone else to hand her permission. She is not living for the approval of others. She is not bending herself to fit into places that were never meant for her. She has stepped into a life that is fully hers, and she wears it like a crown no one can take away. This is what it looks like when a woman stops asking, "Is this okay?" and starts saying, "This is how I live." She has reached a place in life where she understands that not every connection is meant to be kept. There was a time when she held on to people out of habit, out of guilt, or simply because they had been there for so long. But life has taught her that the weight of the wrong company is heavier than the emptiness of being alone. And so she has become intentional, careful, deliberate about who she allows close to her heart. She no longer believes in keeping relationships just for the sake of appearances. The old saying about equality over quantity is no longer a cliche to her. It is the way she breathes. She has learned to identify the difference between people who uplift and those who quietly drain. There are no more crowded rooms filled with shallow conversations. There are no more endless phone calls that leave her feeling smaller than she was before. Now she chooses depth over noise, truth over politeness, peace over people-pleasing. Living alone has given her something many never experience, the power to curate her own circle without compromise. She doesn't have to negotiate over who comes into her home or whose energy fills her space. Every person she welcomes into her life must bring something nourishing, kindness, understanding, joy, or genuine respect. She has learned that not everyone deserves a seat at a table, and that is not cruelty. It is self-preservation. The freedom of this choice has changed her completely. She is no longer afraid to walk away when someone shows they are not capable of being a healthy presence. She does not argue, she does not beg, she does not try to convince them to stay. She simply steps back and closes the door gently. Not because she is cold, but because she has realized her peace is worth more than any forced connection. Her relationships now have space to breathe. When she meets with a friend, there is genuine joy in the exchange because she knows she wants to be there, not because she feels she has to. Conversations feel lighter but go deeper. Laughter flows without the bitterness of hidden resentment. There is no performance in her connections anymore, only presence. This shift has also revealed something powerful. When she stopped chasing people, she started attracting the right ones. She no longer sends messages just to keep a thread alive. She no longer says yes to invitations out of fear that she will be forgotten. She allows people to meet her where she stands, and those who value her will always make the journey. The ones who don't were never meant to be permanent. Her home reflects this new way of living. It is not a revolving door for anyone who needs a place to vent or dump their chaos. It is a sanctuary, and she treats it as such. The people she lets inside match the energy she wants to live in. Calm, kind, authentic. Every visit becomes an exchange of light, not a transaction of demands. And when the visit ends, she is left feeling more alive, not more exhausted. She knows this level of selectiveness might look lonely to others. They might see, but she knows the truth. She is not lonely. She is protected. She is not isolated. She is insulated. By creating a barrier between herself and toxic influences, she has made room for love in its truest form to enter. There is a different kind of joy in knowing that every relationship in your life is there because it deserves to be. It removes the constant second-guessing, the wondering if someone is secretly against you, the subtle draining that comes from keeping people who do not truly care. She has no time for half-hearted connections. She has no patience for those who only show up when it benefits them. She has drawn a line, and on her side of it are only those who understand the value of being in her life. And perhaps the most beautiful thing is that she has learned to be her own greatest companion. She no longer needs people to fill the silence. She fills it herself with music, with books, with moments of stillness that are more healing than any conversation could. Because she is content with her own company, she is never desperate for someone else's. And that contentment is what allows her to choose wisely rather than cling blindly. Her circle is small, but it is strong. Each person in it is a source of strength, laughter, or wisdom. And because there are no unnecessary voices crowding her life, she can hear the truth more clearly, both from others and from within herself. This is what makes her relationships richer, her days calmer, and her heart lighter. She has mastered the art of keeping only what nourishes her soul and letting go of everything else. She has discovered a kind of wealth that cannot be measured in numbers or possessions. It is the wealth of waking up with a calm mind, of moving through her day without the constant pull of tension, of ending her nights with the quiet satisfaction that nothing and no one disturbed her peace. This is the treasure she protects above all else. She has lived long enough to know that happiness is not about adding more, it is about removing what threatens to steal her inner balance. Her life now moves at a pace that feels right for her. There is no urgency to prove herself, no restless chase for approval. She has traded chaos for rhythm, noise for stillness. Mornings might begin with the soft clink of a teaspoon in her cup, the steam rising gently as she sits by the window watching the light shift across the room. Sometimes she begins the day with prayer or a moment of gratitude, other times with the quiet turning of pages in a book. These rituals may seem small, but they are deliberate, anchors that keep her steady no matter what storms may pass outside her walls. Living alone has given her something most overlook: control over her environment and the energy that fills it. She is mindful about what she allows in, whether it is the sound of the music she plays, the scent of a candle burning nearby, or the thoughts she lets circle in her mind. She knows that protecting her peace is not a passive act. It is an active choice she must make every day, and so she chooses with care. This balance does not come from pretending life is perfect. She has faced her share of losses, disappointments, and difficult seasons, but she has learned the difference between pain and chaos. Pain is part of living, but chaos is often a choice. By removing people, habits, and distractions that pull her away from herself, she has created a space where even hard moments feel less overwhelming. She is not running from life, she is standing firmly in it, but on her own terms. Her solitude is not emptiness. It is a container she fills with things that strengthen her spirit. Some days, it's the steady flow of her pen across a journal, the words helping her untangle the knots in her thoughts. Other days, it's the slow movement of watering her plants, each leaf a reminder that life thrives with care and attention. She finds comfort in the repeatable, the familiar, the rituals that make her home a sanctuary and her heart a safe place to return to. She has noticed that the more she guards her peace, the less she feels the need to be everywhere, to do everything, to please everyone. The pressure to always say yes has dissolved. She says yes now only when she means it. And in doing so, every agreement becomes sincere, every action aligned with her own values. There is no resentment hiding beneath her words because she no longer lives for the comfort of others at the cost of her own. Some might see her way of life as slow, even uneventful. But she knows the truth. Slowness is not stagnation, it is presence. By moving at her own pace, she notices more. The way the sunlight dances on her floor at noon, the faint hum of the world outside her door, the sound of her own breathing when the house is completely still. These are not meaningless details. They are reminders that life's beauty is often found in what is easily missed when we are rushing. She has also learned that protecting her inner peace sometimes means protecting her boundaries. There are doors she no longer opens and conversations she no longer entertains, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. She has no need to prove her point in every argument or fix every misunderstanding. She understands that not everything requires her reaction and not every storm needs her to stand in the rain. Her emotional balance is not the result of never feeling anger, sadness, or frustration. It comes from knowing how to return to center when those emotions arrive. She lets herself feel, but she does not let herself drown. This is the gift of her solitude. The space to process without interruption, the time to heal without pressure, the freedom to grow without someone else's timetable dictating her progress. In her world, peace is not just the absence of noise, it is the presence of harmony. It is the sound of her own laughter echoing through the room after she says something only she can hear. It is the comfort of lying in bed without a single thought clawing for attention. It is the quiet confidence that she is enough exactly as she is in the life she has chosen. She has become the guardian of her own soul, and that role is sacred. Nothing enters her space without passing through the filter of her values, her needs, and her vision for the life she wants to live. This is not selfishness, it is self-respect. She understands now that when her heart is at peace, everything else in her life flows more easily. And so she moves forward each day, protecting this balance, cherishing it, and living in a way that ensures she never loses it again.